I realized I wanted to be an archaeologist and anthropologist when I was in my second year of my undergraduate education at UC Santa Barbara. And I think I grew up, like many people in America, not really knowing what anthropology was. I knew what archaeology was, of course, but I really never knew it was a discipline that you could actually do or get into. I went off to college to Santa Barbara, not far from where I grew up on the California coast. And I wanted to be a marine biologist. I was really interested in marine mammals and fish and all sorts of different aspects of the ocean. But I got to the university and I found that during my first couple semesters, I was just taking classes primarily about calculus and OChem and all the biological prereqs. And while those were fine, it wasn't really what I wanted to do. And I sort of stumbled into an introduction to archaeology class during my second year as an elective. And it was a class taught by Brian Fagan, who of course is one of the famous archaeologists. He did at that time and in subsequent classes I took with him really discourage most students from becoming archaeologists. And I was disappointed with that at the time, but really what he's trying to do is tell us, look, this is a difficult field to make a living in. This is a difficult field to get into, and only do it if you really, really like it. But his course prompted me to take another course by a guy named Mike Glassow, who ended up being my mentor while I was an undergraduate. And this was a course on California archaeology. And I'd grown up on the coast of California. I'd, of course, been to a lot of the local museums. I'd seen and learned about some of the tribes in California growing up. But it wasn't until I took this course that it really dawned on me that, wow, there's an incredible amount of information about these people who lived where I grew up, for over 10,000 years. And it really struck me that, wow, we can learn a lot. And I also found out, because Mike was doing work in the Channel Islands in California and also on the mainland coast of California, that I could combine some of the interests that I had in marine biology with archaeology. And I could look at how ancient people interacted with these marine environments that I was so interested in. One of the things with anthropology and archaeology is you tend to need a lot of education to get started in the field. Archaeology has changed over the years in that we now have a whole bunch of subdisciplines or different fields of archaeology that you can get involved in. Traditionally, archaeology was something that you did in a museum or university context, and within the last 10 to 20 years, there's been the growth in America of what's called cultural resource management. And this is private and public sector work that deals with preserving and protecting archaeological sites, especially when they're going to be developed. As a research archaeologist, working in a museum setting and then previously working at a university, I needed to get a PhD. And this started, getting a bachelor's degree as an undergraduate, building that solid liberal arts background in anthropology and archaeology and linguistics and physical anthropology, that kind of traditional four-field approach. And then I went on to graduate school and started with a master's degree. I did a research paper focused on my own independent research, took a series of graduate level seminars with other graduate students and a faculty member. You ultimately end up in your PhD work. And if you're doing the math and adding up years, you can see 4 years as an undergrad, 2 to 3 years as a master's, and then as an anthropologist or archaeologist, it's usually another 4 years to get the PhD. So you're talking probably about 10 years of education total from undergraduate all the way through to the PhD. I finished my PhD at the University of Oregon in 2004, and this was after I'd been in graduate school for about 7 years, getting my master's degree on up. And I was lucky to get a job right away teaching as an assistant professor at Southern Methodist University in Dallas, and it was a fantastic place to work. I had the good fortune, I was very lucky to get a job here at the Smithsonian's National Museum of Natural History just over a year ago. I joined the department in September of 2008. Came on at a very great time. There's a wonderful group of colleagues from the archaeobiology program to the Arctic Studies program on down the line. It's a very dynamic group within anthropology, and then also the museum having a series of biological and a geology department too. It's just a very engaging place to be. My days here at the museum are a little bit different than the days I spent at the university. I guess I had, sort of a misconception that I could come in and it would be all research all the time. And it is that way a lot of the time. We're encouraged to do a lot of research, but the Smithsonian, the museum is such a dynamic place that there are always opportunities to lecture for the public and for scientists. There are always things that keep me busy interacting with other colleagues and students. We also have the opportunity to teach courses or do informal tours and lectures of the department and what we do. So I find that my days are punctuated where some days I'll have a lot of interaction with the public. I'll maybe have a lecture to give. Other days I'll have a day of 8 hours spent doing research, and I'll try and break that up with writing for most of the time, trying to get a scholarly publication together perhaps, to doing some data analysis, to doing lab work. I host a lot of interns too. I have a couple interns right now, one from the University of Maryland, two from George Washington University. Those interns work directly with me in this lab, and we try and keep it a pretty active and vibrant place.